Hyunwoo Kim walked slowly through the giant doors of the council chamber. His black shoes made no sound on the smooth metal floor. The room was huge, with walls that reached up so high he could barely see the ceiling. 12 different alien species sat in their special seats, each one designed for their unique body shapes. The air smelled strange, like metal, and something sweet that made his nose itch. Hyunwoo had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 5 years now. He knew this smell well. It was the smell of fear mixed with pride. The aliens were scared, but they would never admit it. Behind him, Da-eun Park and General Taemin Lee took their seats in the human section. Da-eun was Earth's best expert on alien biology. She had saved more alien lives than any human in history. Taemin was their top military advisor, the man who had helped end 3 wars without firing a single shot. The Zephyrian Council leader stood up first. His blue skin looked darker than usual under the chamber lights. His forearms moved in the yi, gestures that meant he was about to say something very important. The matter before us today concerns the future of human participation in our great council, the Zephyrian said. His voice came through the translation device as cold and formal. For 300 years, humans have served our alliance well, but we need more commitment from Earth. Hyunwoo kept his face calm. He had learned long ago that showing emotions in this room was seen as weakness. The aliens believed that strong species controlled their feelings perfectly. The Kethari representative spoke next. She was tall and thin, with silver skin that reflected the chamber lights. Human children must be sent to live among us. They will learn our ways and become bridges between our cultures. This is not a request. This is a requirement for continued membership in the council. Da-eun's hands tightened slightly in her lap, but her face showed nothing. She had 3 children back on Earth. The youngest was only 8 years old. How many children? Hyunwoo asked in his calm voice. 1,000 from each human settlement world, replied the Vorthon ambassador. His green scales made a soft scraping sound as he shifted in his seat. They will be raised in our finest facilities. They will receive the best education. They will become the future leaders of human-alien relations. The translation made it sound reasonable, but Hyunwoo understood what they really meant. The children would be hostages. They would make sure humans always did what the council wanted. The Nixari council member buzzed softly before speaking. Her insect-like body trembled with what humans had learned was excitement. The vote has already been decided. All 12 founding species agree. Earth has 30 days to begin the transfer process. Hyunwoo looked around the chamber. He saw the same expression on every alien face. They thought they had won. They thought humans would have no choice but to agree. We have given you everything, the Zephyrian continued. Your people work on our worlds. Your doctors save our lives. Your engineers build our cities. Your teachers educate our young. In return, we ask for this small thing. Small thing. Hyunwoo almost smiled at that. Taking children from their families was never a small thing to humans. But the aliens didn't understand that. They had spent 3 centuries learning how to use human skills without learning how humans thought. Your emotional attachment to offspring is well known, said the Kethari representative. But it is time for humans to grow beyond such primitive feelings. The children will benefit greatly from this opportunity. Da-eun made a small sound in her throat. It was so quiet that only humans could hear it. But to Hyunwoo it sounded like thunder. General Taemin leaned forward slightly. His military training had taught him to read danger signals. Every alien in the room was relaxed, confident. They thought this meeting was just a formality. Perhaps, said the Vorthon, humans need to understand their position better. Without council membership, Earth would be alone in the galaxy. No trade agreements, no protection from raiders, no access to our advanced technology. The threat was clear. Submit or be isolated. Hyunwoo stood up slowly. The chamber became quiet. Even the soft humming of the air systems seemed to fade away. The human government needs time to consider this proposal, he said. His voice carried clearly through the translation system to every corner of the chamber. What is there to consider? Asked the Nexari representative. The decision is final. You have 30 days to comply. 30 days to consider our response, Hyunwoo corrected gently. Earth will need to discuss this matter with all human colonies and settlements. This affects every human family in the galaxy. The Zephyrian leader waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. Very well. 30 days. But understand that non-compliance is not an option. The Council has been generous with humanity for too long. It is time for equal sacrifice. Equal sacrifice. The words hung in the air like poison. Humans had been giving everything for 3 centuries. They had shared their knowledge freely. They had worked without rest to solve problems the aliens couldn't handle. They had asked for nothing in return except respect and fair treatment. Now the Council wanted their children. Hyunwoo bowed slightly, the formal gesture that ended Council sessions. Earth will provide our answer in 30 days. As he turned to leave, he caught Daeun's eye. She nodded once, very slightly. Taemin was already reaching for his communication device. The 3 humans walked out of the chamber together. Behind them, alien voices rose in excited chatter. They were planning how to divide up the human children. They were discussing which worlds would get which specialists. They were celebrating their victory before it had even happened. None of them noticed the look that passed between the 3 humans as they left the chamber. None of them had learned to read human expressions well enough to see what that look meant. It was the look of people who had just made a decision that would change everything. The 30-day countdown had begun, but the aliens had no idea what they had really started. Jiho Choi received the message while he was deep underground on the mining world of Kepler 442b. His team was installing a new atmospheric processor that would make the air breathable for the Vorthan colonists. The work was almost finished. Just 2 more weeks and another dead world would come to life. The message was simple and came through the secure human communication network. Family reunion required. Personal matters need attention. Anyone reading it would think Jiho had a family emergency back home. Jiho understood immediately. He had been waiting for this message for 5 years. He called his team together in the main work area. 12 of the best terraforming engineers in the galaxy looked at him with curious faces. They all had dirty uniforms and tired eyes, but they loved their work. Making dead worlds live again was the greatest job in the universe. I need to return to Earth, Jiho told them. Family situation, emergency. His assistant engineer, Kyung-soo Nam, frowned. But sir, we're so close to finishing. The Vorthans are counting on us. The atmospheric processor just needs the final calibration. Pack everything up, Jiho said quietly. We're all going home. The team stared at him. Minjun Park, their systems specialist, was the first to understand. His eyes went wide, then he nodded slowly. Personal emergency for all of us? Asked Kyung-soo. Family reunion, Jiho repeated. Very important family reunion. 2 days later, the terraforming team was gone. They took their tools, their spare parts, and their knowledge with them. The atmospheric processor sat silent and incomplete. The medical station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Dr. Soo-Jin Yang was performing surgery on a Kethari patient when her communication device buzzed. The message was the same. Family reunion. She finished the surgery perfectly, saving the alien's life as she had done thousands of times before. Then she walked to her office and began packing her medical research. Doctor, where are you going? Asked her alien assistant, a young Kethari named Veltar. You have 17 surgeries scheduled this week. I'm sorry, Soo-Jin said as she carefully packed her research notes into a secure container. I have to go home. Family emergency. But the plague patients need you, Veltar said with panic in his voice. You're the only one who understands the new treatment. Soo-Jin paused. She had spent 3 years developing a cure for the Kethari plague. It had saved millions of lives. But now she sealed her research away where no alien could read it. The medical staff here is very capable, she said kindly. They'll figure something out. She left that night on a human cargo ship. Her research came with her. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out hundreds of times. Donghyun Park, whose new grain varieties had ended famine on 6 worlds, quietly closed his agricultural research station. He told his alien colleagues he needed to visit Earth for crop genetic consultation. His hybrid seeds went with him. Captain Min-Ho Kim was halfway to the Nexari homeworld when he received the message. His cargo ship, Soul's Pride, carried medical supplies desperately needed by 3 Nexari colonies. Instead of continuing his route, he changed course toward the nearest human outpost. The Nexari Trade Commissioner contacted him immediately. "Captain Kim, you are off course. The medical supplies are urgently needed." "Mechanical problems," Min-Ho lied smoothly. "Need to stop for repairs at the human station." "How long will repairs take?" "Difficult to say. Might need to return to Earth for proper parts." The Nexari Commissioner's voice rose with worry. "But the medical supplies will be delivered when my ship is safe to fly," Min-Ho said. Then he cut the communication. At the human station, he transferred his cargo to storage and filed a report claiming engine troubles. The supplies would sit there until someone came to claim them. That someone would not be Min-Ho, Professor Young-Soo. Han was in the middle of teaching a class at the Galactic Agricultural Institute when his personal device chimed. 20 alien students from 12 different species looked up as he read the message. "I apologize," he said to his class. "I must return to Earth immediately. Family situation." His students protested. Young-Soo was the most popular teacher at the institute. His classes were always full because he made plant genetics simple and interesting. "What about our final exams?" asked a Zephyrian student. "The institute will find another instructor," Young-Soo replied as he gathered his personal research files. But he knew no one else at the institute understood his work well enough to teach it. His research on 12-world crop adaptation would leave with him. The pattern spread quietly across the galaxy. Human engineers found sudden family emergencies. Human doctors discovered personal health issues that required treatment on Earth. Human teachers remembered cultural obligations that called them home. Bo-Ra Choi, Earth's Minister of Alien Affairs, coordinated the exodus from her office in Seoul. Her communication boards showed green lights turning red as humans across the galaxy began their journey home. Each red light represented another critical position being abandoned. The first alien officials to notice were confused, more than worried. The Vorthan colony administrator sent a polite message asking when Jiho's team would return to finish their atmospheric processor. Bo-Ra's response was bureaucratically perfect. "Mr. Choi's team is attending to urgent family matters. We hope they will be available to resume work once personal situations are resolved. We appreciate your patience during this difficult time." Similar messages went out to dozens of alien administrators. Each one was polite, apologetic, and completely unhelpful. Captain Jisoo Park commanded the merchant fleet that supplied 17 different alien colonies. When she received the family reunion message, she immediately recalled all her ships to human space stations. 43 cargo vessels changed course in a single day. Alien port authorities tried to contact her fleet. "Captain Park, we have contracts, delivery schedules to maintain. Temporary suspension due to crew health concerns," she replied. "Safety. First, I'm sure you understand." The aliens didn't understand at all, but they couldn't argue with safety regulations. Dr. Kang Dae Lim was the architect of the galaxy's communication network. The quantum relays that connected thousands of worlds all used his designs. When he left his monitoring station on Kepler 438b, he took with him the only complete documentation of how the system worked. His alien assistant tried to stop him. "Dr. Lim, if the network fails without you here, the system is very stable," Kang Dae replied calmly. "It should run fine for months without maintenance." He didn't mention that "should" was a very important word in that sentence. Trade Coordinator Hai Jin Moon oversaw human commercial operations across 14 systems. She knew exactly which alien economies depended on human goods and services. As she watched the reports come in, she smiled slightly. The humans were leaving, and they were taking everything that mattered with them. Within 2 weeks, the Great Exodus was nearly complete. Humans cited family reunions, medical issues, cultural obligations, and personal emergencies. Not one of them mentioned the Council's demand for their children. The aliens barely noticed at first. They had managed without humans before, hadn't they? They would manage again. But deep in their government offices, a few alien officials were beginning to worry about the strange coincidence of so many human emergencies happening at once. They didn't realize that the real emergency was just beginning. Elder Vashta of the Kethari woke up to the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed in his sleeping chamber as his personal aide rushed in with terrible news. Elder, the plague has returned. 17 cities are reporting new cases. Vashta's 4 eyes widened with fear. The plague had been quiet for months, controlled by Dr. Su Jin Yang's treatments. Call the human doctor immediately. We tried, Elder. Dr. Yang returned to Earth 3 days ago. Family emergency. Then call her on Earth. We tried that too. She says she's in meetings about cultural preservation activities. She cannot provide medical consultation at this time. Vashta dressed quickly and rushed to the medical center. The head Kethari doctor, Mordan, met him at the entrance with panic in his silver eyes. Elder, we don't understand what's happening. This looks like the old plague, but it's different. The symptoms are changing. Our treatments aren't working. What? About Dr. Yang's research, her notes? She took everything with her. She said it was her personal property. Vashta stared at the empty research laboratory. For 3 years, this room had been the center of medical advancement for his people. Now it was just an empty space with clean tables and blank computer screens. How long until we can recreate her work? Mordan's skin turned pale gray, the Kethari color of fear. Elder, I don't know if we can. She used human diagnostic methods we never learned to understand. She said our traditional approaches were too limited. The plague numbers grew worse, each hour. By evening, 3 cities were under quarantine. On the industrial world of Nexus Prime, Chief Engineer Wu Jin Seo's fusion reactors were showing red warning lights. The alien engineers stared at the control panels with growing terror. What do these symbols mean? Asked head engineer Zarthak, pointing at Wu Jin's maintenance notes. I'm not sure, admitted his assistant. The human always handled the complex repairs himself. The reactor's power output had dropped 20% in 1 day. The stress fractures in the containment system were growing larger. If they couldn't fix the problem soon, the reactor would have to be shut down completely. Can we contact Engineer Seo? We tried. His office on Earth says he's in cultural consultation meetings. They can't predict when he'll be available. Zarthak looked at the pages and pages of technical notes written in human mathematical notation. None of his engineers could read them. They had always depended on Wu Jin to translate the complex information into simple instructions. How long can the reactor run without proper maintenance? Maybe 2 weeks, maybe less. That night, emergency power restrictions began across Nexus. Prime Professor Young-Soo Han's absence from the Galactic Agricultural Institute created a different kind of crisis. His hybrid grain varieties had been planted across 12 worlds. The crops were growing well, but then the problems started. In the farming world of Terra Verde, the grain began showing genetic instability. The plants grew too tall and fell over. The seeds were producing strange mutations. Local agricultural experts had no idea what was happening. Contact Professor Han immediately, ordered the planetary agriculture minister. We can't reach him. Earth says he's engaged in cultural preservation activities. What about his research notes? He took them all with him. The same problems appeared on world after world. The miracle grains that had increased food production by 400% were failing. Local experts tried to fix the problems, but they didn't understand the complex genetic modifications Young-Soo had created. Worse, the modified plants were affecting local ecology in unexpected ways. Without Young-Soo's constant monitoring and adjustments, the carefully balanced agricultural systems began to collapse. The Vorthan colony's life support system started failing on day 4. The atmospheric processor that Jiho's team had been installing was only partially complete. It could provide basic air, but not the complex atmospheric mix the Vorthans needed for good health. Colony Administrator Velkoth sent increasingly desperate messages to Earth. Our children are getting sick from the incomplete atmosphere. Please send Jiho's team back immediately. Bora Choi's office responded with polite regret. Mr. Choi's team is dealing with urgent family matters that require extended attention. We understand your concerns and hope the situation can be resolved soon. The colony had no choice but to begin evacuation procedures. Captain Jisoo Park received 43 emergency messages that week. Alien colonies across the galaxy were running out of medical supplies, food, and critical equipment. Her merchant fleet had always been reliable, delivering everything on schedule. Now the cargo ships sat in human space stations, while alien worlds went without. Captain Park, this is Port Authority Nexus Station. Our medical supplies are critically low. When will deliveries resume? Currently assessing crew health and safety protocols, Jisoo replied calmly. Cannot provide delivery timeline at this moment. People are dying without those supplies. I understand your concern. However, crew, safety must be our first priority. I'm sure you appreciate the importance of following proper procedures. The interstellar communication network began having technical difficulties in the second week. Dr. Kang Dae Lim was supposedly attending family matters on Earth, unavailable for consultation. The quantum relays he had designed were incredibly complex. They worked perfectly when properly maintained, but they needed constant small adjustments to handle the massive data flow between thousands of worlds. Without Kang Dae's expertise, the alien technicians could only perform basic repairs. They didn't understand the sophisticated algorithms that kept the network stable. Communication delays began affecting trade, government coordination, and emergency services across the galaxy. Trade coordinator Hai Jin Moon watched the economic reports with professional interest. Alien stock markets were beginning to show volatility as supply chains broke down. Manufacturing worlds couldn't get raw materials. Agricultural worlds couldn't ship food to hungry populations. The Galactic Council had built their economy around human efficiency and innovation. Now they were learning what that dependence really meant. Admiral Sang Ho Yoon had designed the Galactic Defense Grid 5 years earlier. It was a masterpiece of strategic planning that protected over 3,000 worlds from raiders and pirates. The system used human tactical algorithms that could predict and respond to threats faster than any alien military system. But the algorithms needed constant updates and adjustments based on new threat patterns. Without Sang Ho's team to maintain them, the defense grid began producing error messages. Alien military officers tried to fix the problems, but they didn't understand the complex strategic logic behind the human-designed system. The grid's response, time slowed down. Its accuracy decreased. In the dark spaces between stars, the Void Hunters noticed the weakening defenses. They had been waiting for an opportunity like this for decades. By the end of the second week, panic was beginning to spread through alien governments. The Zephyrian Council leader called an emergency session. How many humans have left their positions? He demanded. Approximately 90% of all humans working outside Earth space, replied the intelligence officer. They all cite personal or family emergencies. All of them? At the same time. The timing does seem unusual. The Kethari representative was pale with worry. My people are dying of a plague we thought was cured. Our doctors can't help them. Without human knowledge. The Vorthan delegate spoke with barely controlled panic. 3 of our colonies are being evacuated. Critical systems are failing. Similar reports came from every council member. Food shortages, power failures, medical crises, communication breakdowns. This cannot be coincidence, the Zephyrian leader said. Contact Earth immediately, demand explanations. But when they tried to call Earth, they found that the communication problems extended even there. Dr. Kang Dae Lim's quantum relays were experiencing technical difficulties. The aliens were beginning to understand that they were facing something much worse than coincidence. They were facing the consequences of their own arrogance. The emergency alert came through the broken communication system just after midnight, Galactic Standard Time. The Void Hunters had attacked 3 border systems simultaneously. For the first time in decades, they had broken through the Galactic. Defense Grid Admiral Velkari of the Nexari fleet stared at the tactical display with growing horror. The defense grid showed massive red zones where the algorithms had simply stopped working. The sophisticated prediction systems that Admiral Sang Ho Yoon had built were producing nothing but error messages. "How many ships do the Void Hunters have?" Velkari asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. The grid isn't tracking them properly anymore." "What about our defensive positions?" "Sir, without the human tactical algorithms, our response time is 3 times slower than normal." Velkari's scales turned dark blue with stress. The Void Hunters were pirates from the empty spaces between galaxies. For 30 years, human military strategy had kept them contained in the outer rim. Now they were striking at populated worlds, with no effective resistance. The first reports from the attacked systems were devastating. The colony on Kepler 186F was completely destroyed. The mining station at Wolf 359 had gone silent. The agricultural world of Gliesa 667cc was calling for immediate evacuation. Without human tactical advisors, the alien military forces were fighting like it was 50 years ago. They couldn't coordinate properly. They couldn't predict enemy movements. They couldn't adapt to new strategies. The Void Hunters, sensing weakness, launched more attacks. On the Vorthon homeworld, the situation had moved beyond crisis. 3 major cities were now completely without power as the human-designed fusion reactors shut down one by one. The alien engineers couldn't maintain the complex systems without Wu Jinseo's expertise. Emergency protocols had been activated across the planet. Food distribution was breaking down because the processing facilities needed massive amounts of power. Hospitals were operating on backup generators. Transportation systems were failing. Colony Administrator Mortek sent one final desperate message to Earth. "Our civilization is collapsing. Millions of lives are at risk. Please send help immediately." The response came back 6 hours later through the failing communication network. "Earth government sympathizes with your difficulties. However, our technical experts are currently engaged in cultural preservation activities. We hope to resume normal cooperation once our internal matters are resolved." Morthek stared at the message for a long time. Cultural preservation activities. The same phrase every alien leader was hearing from Earth. The Kethari plague had spread to 47 cities. Elder Vashta stood in the emergency command center watching the death count rise on the main screen. Numbers that had been 0 for months were now climbing every hour. "Status report," he commanded. His medical advisor's skin was gray with exhaustion. "Elder, we've lost 17,000 people in the past week. Our hospitals are overwhelmed. We can't treat the new strain of the plague." "What about the research Dr. Yang left behind?" "There was no research left behind, Elder. She took everything. Even her old notes were wiped from our computers before she left." Vashta felt a chill run through his body. "She deleted our medical records?" "Not our records, sir. Her research. She said it belonged to her personally, not to our medical system." For 3 years, the Kethari had depended completely on human medical knowledge. They had stopped training their own doctors in plague research because Dr. Yang was so much better at it. Now they were paying the price for that dependence. The agricultural crisis was spreading faster than anyone had predicted. Young Suhan's modified crops weren't just failing, they were affecting the soil itself. The genetic modifications he had created were too complex for local scientists to understand. On 12 different worlds, food production was dropping rapidly. The miracle grains that had ended famine were now causing it. The Zephyrian agricultural minister received reports that made his blue skin turn pale. "How bad is it?" "Crop failure on 7 worlds is now complete. 5 more worlds are reporting severe problems. We estimate 18 months before famine conditions begin. Can our traditional crops replace the human varieties?" "Not quickly enough. We stopped growing traditional crops 3 years ago because the human grains were so much more efficient." The same conversation was happening in government offices across the galaxy. Alien leaders were discovering that they had become completely dependent on human expertise without realizing it. Captain Min-Ho Kim received over 200 emergency supply requests that week. His cargo fleet was sitting safely in human space, while alien colonies ran out of everything they needed to survive. The requests were becoming increasingly desperate. Medical supplies for plague victims, power cells for failing energy systems, food for starving populations, critical parts for life support systems. His response was always the same: temporary suspension of services due to crew safety concerns. Unable to provide delivery timeline at this time. Trade Coordinator Hye Jin-moon watched the alien economic reports with fascination. Stock markets across the galaxy were in complete collapse. Manufacturing had stopped on 17 worlds because they couldn't get raw materials. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for decades were now completely broken. The aliens had built their economy around human efficiency. Human ships carried the cargo. Human engineers maintained the systems. Human doctors kept the workers healthy. Human agricultural experts fed the populations. Now all of that was gone, and the aliens were learning they couldn't replace it. Communication with Earth became even more difficult when the quantum relays began failing completely. Dr. Kangde, Lim's sophisticated network was breaking down without proper maintenance. Entire sectors were losing contact with their governments. The Galactic Council called an emergency session, but half the members couldn't attend because their communication systems weren't working. The meeting that did happen was filled with panic and anger. "This is clearly an act of war by Earth," shouted the Nexari representative. "They're destroying our civilization. We must demand that they send their people back immediately," agreed the Vorthon delegate, but the Kethari elder Vashta looked older and wiser than the others. "What exactly will we demand with? Our military is in chaos, our economy is collapsing, our people are dying." "We could threaten to expel Earth from the Council," suggested the Zephyrian leader. Vashta's laugh was bitter. "And what would that accomplish? Earth's people are already gone. Expelling them from the Council won't bring back our dead or fix our failing systems." The truth was beginning to sink in. The aliens had no leverage over Earth anymore. They had spent 3 centuries taking human help for granted, never realizing how completely they had become dependent on it. The Void Hunter attacks were getting worse. Without effective military coordination, 3 more systems had fallen. Refugee ships were fleeing toward the galaxy's core, but even they were having problems because human-maintained navigation systems were failing. Admiral Velkari received his final orders from the Nexari High Command. Stop the Void Hunter advance by any means necessary. But he had no means. His fleet was operating with tactics from 50 years ago. His weapon systems needed human-designed targeting algorithms that no longer worked properly. His supply lines were broken because human cargo fleets had disappeared. The Void Hunters were using strategies they had learned from 30 years of fighting human military advisors. But the aliens didn't understand those same strategies well, enough to counter them. For the first time in decades, the Void Hunters were winning. As the 3rd week ended, the scale of the disaster became clear. Entire star systems were going dark as their infrastructure failed. Millions of aliens were dead from plague, starvation, or military attacks. The galactic economy was in complete collapse, and through it all, Earth remained politely unreachable. Their people were engaged in cultural preservation activities and could not be disturbed. The aliens finally understood what they had lost when they demanded Earth's children as hostages. They had lost everything. The emergency council session was held in a temporary facility because the main council chamber had lost power. Half the seats were empty. Those representatives couldn't travel because the transportation systems had failed. The others attended, through broken communication links that cut out every few minutes. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim sat calmly in the defendant's chair, just as he had 3 weeks earlier. But everything else had changed. The aliens who had been so confident before now looked desperate and afraid. The Zephyrian Council leader's blue skin had faded to a sickly pale color. "Ambassador Kim, you must explain what Earth has done to us." Hyunwoo's voice was quiet and steady. "Earth has done nothing to you. Our people chose to return home for personal reasons." "Personal reasons?" The Kethari elder Vashta's voice cracked with exhaustion. 50,000 of my people are dead from plague. Is that a personal reason? Dr. Su Jinyang had every right to return home when she chose, just as your people have the right to live where they choose. The Vorthan representative was shaking with anger. You sabotaged our fusion reactors. You destroyed our atmospheric processors. Our engineers left incomplete projects when they were called home for family emergencies. They did not sabotage anything. Then why won't they return to finish the work? Hyunwoo looked around the broken chamber. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the alien faces. Would you send your children to live with people who had threatened to take them as hostages? The chamber fell silent. Even the backup power system seemed to hum more quietly. The Nexari Admiral Velkari spoke through a crackling communication. Link. The Void Hunters have taken 12 systems. Our defenses are failing without human military advisors. This is an act of war. No, Hyunwoo replied. This is the consequence of demanding what you had no right to take. A hologram flickered to life at the center of the chamber. President Na Shin appeared, her image breaking up due to communication problems. When the picture stabilized, her expression was calm, but her eyes were cold. Honored council members, she began, Earth has received many requests for immediate assistance with various technical and medical problems. We understand your concerns. The Zephyrian leader leaned forward desperately. President Shin, we are willing to discuss the original proposal. Perhaps we can find a compromise. There will be no compromise regarding our children, Na-young replied, firmly. But we are willing to discuss a new relationship between Earth and the Council. Chief Analyst Si-jun Park appeared beside the president's hologram. His hands held a datapad with statistics that made the aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. The current crisis has revealed some interesting information, Si-jun said in a professional tone. Agricultural output in council space is down, 78%. Medical treatment capability has decreased by 61%. Industrial production has fallen 84%. Military effectiveness has dropped 89%. The numbers hit the aliens like physical blows. The Vorthon representative made a sound of pain. Communication network efficiency is down 72%, Si-jun continued. Interstellar trade has decreased 91%. Power generation capability has fallen 43%. We get the point, Elder Vashita said quietly. We were more dependent on human expertise than we realized. The question now, President Na-young said, is whether the Council wishes to continue this relationship at all. The aliens stared at her in shock. The Zephyrian leader found his voice first. President Shin, surely we can work together to solve these problems. Can we? Na-young asked. 3 weeks ago you voted unanimously to take our children. You threatened us with isolation if we refused. You called our emotional attachment to our offspring primitive. Why should we trust you now? The chamber was quiet except for the hum of failing electronics. Dr. Yoon-ji Lee appeared in the hologram beside the president. As Earth's lead negotiator, she had spent years working with alien governments. Now she looked at them with professional coldness. Earth is prepared to offer a new agreement, Yoon-ji said. But the terms will be very different from our previous arrangement. What terms? Asked the Kethari elder. First, Earth will choose which worlds receive our assistance. We will work only with governments that treat us as equal partners, not servants. The aliens exchanged worried glances. Second, payment for our services will be fair and immediate. The days of free human expertise are over. Payment? The Nexari representative sounded confused. But we always provided you with trade agreements. Trade agreements that benefited you more than us, Yoon-ji replied. Our economists have calculated that human expertise has been worth approximately 2.4 trillion galactic credits per year. You have been paying us about 40 billion credits worth of trade benefits. The aliens made sounds of protest, but Sejun's statistics were clear and undeniable. Third, Yoon-ji continued, human personnel will work under human authority. No more, taking orders from alien supervisors who don't understand the work being done. Fourth, any agreement can be canceled immediately if Earth feels our people are not being treated with proper respect. The Zephyrian leader was the first to understand what this meant. You're saying we have to choose between your help on your terms or no help at all. That's correct. Elder Vashita looked around at his fellow council members. They all understood the choice. Accept human terms or watch their civilizations collapse completely. What about the current crisis? He asked. My people are still dying. President. Nayang's expression softened slightly. Dr. Sujin Yang has volunteered to return to Kethari space immediately, if the new agreement is signed. She can begin treating plague victims within 48 hours. The relief in Vashita's eyes was visible even through the poor hologram quality. Engineer Wu Jin Seo is prepared to restore power to Vorthon colonies. The president continued. Professor Young Soo Han can stabilize the failing crops. Captain Jisoo Park's fleet can resume supply deliveries. And the Void Hunter attacks? Asked Admiral Velkari. Admiral Sang Ho Yoon's tactical team is ready to restore the defense grid to full operation. The aliens looked at each other with a mixture of hope and shame. Everything they desperately needed could be fixed, if they agreed to treat humans as equals instead of servants. How long do we have to decide? Asked the Zephyrian leader. The offer expires in 24 hours. Unji replied. After that, Earth will assume the Council prefers to solve these problems independently. The vote was unanimous. 12 alien species, who had once demanded human children as hostages, now voted to accept any terms Earth offered. The new agreements were signed within 18 hours. Dr. Sujin Yang returned to Kethari space the next day, but this time she brought a full human medical team and established her own research facility. The plague was controlled within a week, but the cure remained human property. Engineer Wu Jin Seo restored power to the Vorthon colonies, but the fusion reactors were now operated by human technicians under human supervision. The Vorthons paid triple the old rate for energy services. Admiral Sang Ho Yoon reactivated the defense grid and stopped the Void Hunter attacks, but the military network was now controlled entirely by human officers. The galaxy slowly returned to normal, but it was a different normal. Humans worked where they chose to work, for governments that respected them. They were paid fairly for their expertise. They could leave immediately if they were mistreated. Most importantly, no one ever again suggested taking human children as hostages. Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim stood in his new office on the human space station orbiting Alpha Centauri. Through the viewport he could see alien ships arriving daily, not to make demands, but to request services and negotiate contracts. Da-Eun Park entered the office with a report. Her 3 children were safe on Earth, attending school and playing with their friends as children should. The Nexari have requested a new agricultural consultation, she told him. They're offering standard rates plus a 20% respect bonus. And the Zephyrians? They want human engineers to design a new power grid for their homeworld. They've agreed to all our terms without negotiation. Hyunwoo nodded. The aliens had learned their lesson well, perhaps too well. Now they were almost afraid to disagree with any human request. Make sure they understand we're partners now, not masters, he told Da-Eun. We don't want to replace their old arrogance with new fear. Through the viewport, another alien ship was approaching. The galaxy was slowly rebuilding, but now it was being built on a foundation of mutual respect rather than assumed servitude, and humans had walked away quietly when threatened. Now they had returned as equals, and the galaxy was better for it.